Greetings and welcome to another edition of the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, anywhere on God's green earth. This is your platform for empowerment, education, and elevation and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries, and I'm your host, your brother, and your friend, Rashid. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for giving me another hour of your day and another day of your time. Now, today's show is called The Russian Federation Prepares to Strike Back. Now, before we go into the show, I want to say something to my patrons and my channel members. Man, listen, it's starting to get frustrating behind the scenes. I'm trying to do live shows, and this is what is happening. When I'm doing them, when I set them up, the link is lost. It's so frustrating because I've been trying to do a live stream all day long, since 12 this morning, back and forth, trying to do it. And I've been trying to do it for my patrons so that I can do a channel member stream tomorrow, and also a live stream for everybody else tomorrow. But look what time it is, my time, Central Time, 8 o'clock, no live stream for my patrons. It's not like I'm not trying. It's like at every turn, there's an obstacle or roadblock that they keep presenting to me, So I want to say to them this, if we don't, because word is bond, and when you give your word, you're supposed to try your best to live up to it. And I've been trying my best to live up to my word. And when roadblocks and obstacles get in the way, I have to level with the people. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't say what I said, because that's not an honorable way to act as a man. So this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do a live for you guys behind closed doors, for the patrons and the channel members. So what I'll do, if I cannot do a live tonight, which I'm going to still try, all right, I'll have to pre-record one tomorrow and then schedule it to come out for you guys. This is frustrating. I'm going to be honest with you guys. The way they're coming after me, this is absolutely frustrating. But we're going to maintain it. We're going to keep going because there's a lot of news going on today, and we gotta touch on all of this. So I want to thank everybody who has joined me and who will join me on Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Odyssey, Locals, the Red Pill Diaries, the Red Pill Journals, and any other platform that may have me. All right. Thank each and every one of you for joining. And if you're not a member of one of the platforms, and please go and join and become a member of all, so that you can, when something comes up on one that's preventing you're getting an understanding, you'll be able to access whatever we have on the other one. So please do that. So let's go into the news right now. I just had to let this frustration out and let you guys know exactly what's going on, because it's not even though it affects me, I hate giving my word and not being able to live up to my word, even if I try my best and something comes to stop it. That's the kind of guy I am. So we're going to continue. I'm going to get some information to you guys, and I'm going to get a stream to you guys, regardless of how much they try to stop this. Regardless, I'm going to do my job. So again, let's go into the news. As a matter of fact, let me try to pick up something real quick while I'm talking to you all. All right. So I noticed in the news today that everybody is talking about Russian President Vladimir Putin. I want to pick up something real quick. Let me see if I can pull it up. You know how we do this. We do this live, so give me a second. Let's see. Vladimir. All right. Let's see if we can pick this up, because it's something very important that he said that everybody is quoting today. Right? Everybody is quoting, which is amazing, because I've been saying the stuff on this platform for the longest, right? And I've been getting all kinds of comments of saying that you're a little bit too brash. We appreciate the effort that you're doing, but that's a little far for Russia to go when you tell Russia to strike back, when you tell Russia to do this. And I'm just speaking of Russia, but I'm talking about any nation. It could be Panama. I'm not talking about Russia just alone. I'm talking about any nation that has been attacked, any nation that has been violated, any nation's sovereignty or independence that has been violated has a inherent right to defend themselves and to strike out at the aggressors. This is all I'm saying. The thing that people get mad at is that I'm straightforward with it. I don't beat around the bush with it. And I just tell it like it is. And what I try to do is let you see, when I give you examples, I try to give you the examples that will resonate with you so that you can use them to understand the greater situation globally, okay? And I've been saying it over and over and over and over again that what Russia should do is if America continues to do what she's doing, the only way that you can get that you can communicate with a person that doesn't speak your language, right? Now, mind you, America is speaking English, right? Or as we say in America, America is speaking American, right? All right, because it's its own brand of English, right? And then Russia is speaking international law, right? Sovereignty and national security and all of this. Russia is speaking international law, right? Now, Russia has been speaking this since the breakup of the Soviet Union, right? So now, if we look at the time that has elapsed from that point to this point, we see that what Russia has been saying has not been able to penetrate the concrete domes of the leaders of the West. So that means that they are only grasping the edge of what Russia is trying to speak. So there's no real communication. That's why America and NATO continues to blow off any thing that Russia says. You know, that's one reason why. And matter of fact, let me click this background real quick because I hate disappearing in the background. Hold on one second. I'll do it in a second when I go to a clip. But listen, the reason the U.S. and NATO continues to ignore Russia and Russia's pleading for sovereignty and independence is because Russia has not been able to convey its core interests to the West. Why? Because the West does not speak international law. The West does not speak taking a higher ground. The West does not speak sovereignty and independence. And no matter how much they trumpet democracy, the West does not speak democracy. So if Russia has tried since the breakup of the Soviet Union to convey their interests, their thoughts, and their fears to the West, and the West has not caught on to them, then Russia has now have to come to grips with the reality that maybe the language that the Russians are not speaking, the Russians are speaking, the Americans and the Westerners cannot comprehend. So what must Russia do? Russia must then learn the language of the West. And then she can convey her fears, her security interests, and everything else to the West, right? Because now we know for a fact that the West speaks war. We know for the fact that the West speaks provocation, isolation, sanctions, right? Resource theft, ignoring international law and international organizations whenever it suits them. The West knows the language of occupation. All of these little elements in the language that the West loves to speak, Russia must now speak to the West. Because Russia has been saying since before the start of the military operation, the special military operation, is that, listen, let's negotiate. Listen, we cannot have NATO in Ukraine with strike capabilities that can hit St. Petersburg and Moscow within 2 minutes. We cannot allow you to have a base on the Sea of Azov. We cannot allow you to dominate the waters of the Black Sea. We've got to negotiate this away. You've already broken every agreement that we've made, and you've expanded NATO up to our border. It's not like we can pick Russia up and take it and sit it somewhere else. So if we cannot pick our nation up and sit it somewhere else, then right where you are, we must now make a stand. Right? And in this stand that we're taking, we must issue the do's, the don'ts, what is acceptable and unacceptable. And if you violate what is unacceptable, then the only way to get you to understand that this is a core interest is for us to speak the language that you're used to talking. This is what I've been saying and trying to convey. Everybody has, all of these pundits, all of these big shows, or whatever, they have been, no, Russia would never say that. Russia would never. As a matter of fact, on the last show, I was just talking about that, right? And I was telling you guys that what Putin should do. You know what? Instead of me telling you like this, we're going to add it to the screen. We're going to let you hear it, okay? This came to my mind when I was out and about. I had my mother in the car. It was me and my daughter and my mother, right? Where's the paper? All right, here it is. Me, my daughter, and my mother. Not my oldest daughter, but me and my baby girl and my mother. We were out and about. And so while I was sitting there waiting for my mother to come out of the store, I'm sitting there and I'm contemplating what's going on because I'm looking at the news on my phone and I'm listening to it through my radio, my stereo. And I'm looking at all of these pundits, all of these big shows. They are now understanding that Russia now is making a stand and Russia is doing this and Russia has said that this is, I have been trying to convey that to everybody for 2 years. What everybody now has dawned on everybody, what Russia should do, even with Vladimir Putin, when he talks about if now we might strike back asymmetrically. If America provides long-range strike weapons, then we should provide it over here. How many times have I told you? As a matter of fact, one of my good friends, let me pull up something real quick. One of my good friends to the show said this the other day about this when I brought this up yesterday. And I'm not talking about it. So flying crocodile, I'm not talking about it. If it's okay with you, I want to bring up a point that you made. Okay. So in that show yesterday, let me pull it up because it's in the comment section. Hold on one second. What is the show? Oh, we did the thing about when lunatics run the asylum part 2. So in the comment section, I believe that's it. Flying Crocodile says this. He says, Russia don't escalate. They take the high road and respond patiently and asymmetrically to Western escalations with moves like strengthening ties with North Korea, assisting their weapons development. And he went on, which I agree totally. And that's what we're saying. That's what I was saying. But it comes a time where you have to announce what you're doing. Okay. It comes a time where you have to say, listen, because this is what you don't understand. The reason that America and the West continue to do what they're doing because they have information dominance. They, even when they're lying through their teeth, they can convey those lies in such a way across their media platforms that most people who may not be interested in it or may have little to no information on it will accept the government's so-called reasoning because the U.S. and the West have information dominance. So Russia must then announce, okay, so there'll be no mistakes about it. If you do this, this, and this will be the consequences, right? And if America does this and this, it must be met with a stern reprisal, with a stern rebuff. I want to play something for you all. Where is it? Look, so you know I'm not lying to you. I was in the store. And I was like, look at that. I was writing this. You see, I got a times on there. You see that? Well, if it'll show it. Times. Okay. I have times up there. And I was going to just cut them up in like 3 or 4 clips and play them. But instead, I'm going to go to YouTube, the Red Pill Diaries YouTube channel on this platform right here. And we're going to play the entirety of the clip. So I want you to be patient with me. The clip is about 10, 11 minutes. But when you listen to the clip, keep in mind that all of the major alternative platforms are now endorsing what Vladimir Putin has said. Now, what's crazy about this is I have been saying these exact things and nobody mentioned them. No, the only thing I received is, hey, you're a little bit too blunt. You got to tone it down. You can't say those things. Russia can't do those things because, listen, if they did this, it will lead to this and this and this. And I kept saying, listen, you don't understand. In reality, if you're the aggressor, it is not on me to prevent confrontation. It is really on you because you are the cause and the root of it. Now, I can try to play down it a little bit, but if you continue to come at me, then according to the laws of nature, then I have to preserve my life. I have to preserve my safety. And it's not on me to try to defend myself with a small amount of force because I don't know how much you want to hurt me. I got to come with what I have to defend myself and to remove the threat from me. This is what is common. But nobody wants to use common sense when it comes to this. But when Putin says it, and it makes it this, what is it, the spife or the spiff, when they're in Russia and they're doing the International Economic Conference or whatever, and Putin announces these things, it dawns on everybody. But as I said, and I've said this, I've said it over. Go back to all of my shows. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play a clip from the show from yesterday. But go back over all of my shows when I'm discussing this. I'm giving you these things. I'm saying, and evidently Vladimir Putin listened, because right after I did the show yesterday, today, pretty much, with a little tweaking of the words, it's pretty much exactly what I said on my other shows. And now it dawns on all of the platforms. Oh, maybe Russia has a point to do this. Maybe Russia should do this. Hell, I've been saying that forever. So I want to play this for you, okay, everybody? I'm gonna bring it to the screen. I want you all to just bear with me, okay? This is from the show we did yesterday, and I hope you guys can hear it. I'm gonna, for a second, you might hear some blowback in your ear. I'm going to see if I can hear it on my phone. So I'm going to go to my page, because sometimes it may play on my screen, and I don't know why StreamYard does this, but other people will tell you. Sometimes it'll play on my screen, but you won't hear it, or sometimes it'll play on yours and I can't hear it. So I'm going to work this out with you all. I'm bringing this up, and I'm going to play this. So give me 1 second while I'm playing it, because I'm going to my show. All right, listen. All right, here we are right here. Let me go back here. Let me go to this. Give me a second. So you guys are going to hear a little blowback, because I'm trying to do this. Hold on 1 second. All righty. 1 second. This is a commercial, so give me a second. Let me see something. All right, right here. Let's see. And I'll see if I can hear it. And I'll stop it, and then I'll play it again. Once I hear it on my phone, I'll stop it and play it again. All right, let's see. Go here. And let me play it. Right here. Oh God. All right. And so your duty as a parent is to make sure that your child is in a better position than you are, and can be a better blessing to others than you are. Okay.
Sending gift cards in bulk can
Hold on.
be a nightmare.
I gotta pass.
But what if it could be tremendous? Tremendous is a platform that takes the stress out of sending payouts like Visa, PayPal, and gift.
There we go. My son. That's the son. So I can hear it on my phone, looking at it on YouTube. So now I'm going to play it for you all, so that you guys can hear it. And pay attention to what I'm saying and the points that I'm making. A lot to most people, I mean, it just goes over their head and out the door, out the window. But to me, this is common sense, because any person worth their salt would do what I said. Any leader worth their salt would do what I said. Okay, and we'll see now that Vladimir Putin is starting to see what I'm saying and coming to the light of what I'm saying. So listen to this good, and I'm going to take myself off the screen while it plays. Same thing, and I'm proud of my children, But let's go to something. I see something in the chat. Thing is, the advertise. I think that was a misspelling. Advertised missile strikes, but since they did, none have come. Only 3 to 5 drones a day into Russia proper. Now, Tiger, listen, I see what you're saying, but yeah, they advertise the missile strikes. But here it is. Why would they do it? Why would they advertise it? It is because they felt it was pressure on them, but also they felt the need. They became desperate, and they felt the need to put pressure on Russia. Now, in no uncertain terms, this would never have come to be if Russia would have smacked them in the mouth. Okay, you remember? Let me give you an example. Do you remember when America started escalating, right? And it started openly being belligerent and saying, we're going to do this and we're going to send, and then they started sending dignitaries to Kiev. See, Russia tries to do things by the UN, but sometimes when you're in war, some of that has to be pushed to the side. Russia's at war against the West in Ukraine. And Russia allows Western leaders to visit Kiev. Remember this, because they cannot come into Ukraine without Russia's permission. And then they get there and they bluster. They have all this bluster in front of them. So listen, had Russia socked the West in the mouth from day one. You remember when they gave them free range to strike everywhere, and they started striking those orphanages and started striking the Head Starts and the schools and stuff with U.S. supplied missiles. And Russia was saying, hey, look, don't do that. Those are Russian children. All right. Now, as Ukraine did it, Russia was Ukraine striking Russian children than it was with Western people striking Russian children. See, this is what I don't get. I tell you, the way the politics is set up today, I could not be a politician. I could not be a leader of a country the way things are structured today. Because just like this, and let me give you an example with Pakistan, okay? If India strikes Pakistan, Pakistan would not hesitate to strike India, right? But if the United States strikes Pakistan, Pakistan goes into this diatribe about, well, hey, you've got to stop doing it. Man, first of all, you have the air capacity, the air capabilities to prevent it. You have the military capabilities to prevent it. What's the difference if you get into a war with India? America's nuclear weapons aren't going to burn any hotter than India's nuclear weapons. I don't get this. America's bullets are not going to kill you more than Indian bullets. See, my mind is on something different. It's way the way people handle each other is unreal. You're scared of the U.S. bullets, but you're not scared of Indian bullets, but they do the same thing. Okay, Ukraine strikes the orphanage. Russia fires off strikes in the Ukraine. Then Russia openly says, we have evidence that Western officers are helping. Well, okay, as long as the strikes are in the Donbass, keep the strikes in Ukraine. But when the strikes deviate into Russia proper, then strikes should deviate out of Ukraine. Do you understand what I'm saying? People say, well, this is application of war. No, this is not. This is to put the pause on war. Because when a person sees that you have the same capability as them, you have the same drive and testicular fortitude as them, and they understand that if you do X, Y, and Z, this will be the outcome, guess what that does? That removes all of this bluster, and it brings calmer heads to handle the situation. It does not promote war most times. It deads that thought on pushing war. Because if Blinken, for once, thought that he would be killed, and I'm not advocating, this is just a thought, YouTube. I'm not pushing this. State Department, I'm not pushing this. FBI, I'm not pushing this. I'm just saying, listen, Blinken is a high official, right? And I could use somebody else. I could use an official from Wang Yi from China. See, so I'm not picking on U.S. officials. I was just using this as an example. So please don't come at me. I'm not advocating. Man, I don't even shoot guns. So don't come at me. Okay. My nature is that of peace, but I can bring war, but I choose peace because that's the nature in which God created the universe, in peace. And that's the way I'm trying to be at peace with everybody. But to be at peace, you got to tell truth. So again, if Blinken felt that his life was on the line, or Wang Yi felt that his life was on the line, right? Don't you think the policies of those diplomats would be somewhat different? If Blinken thought that an attack on China would bring his demise, do you think Blinken would be advocating an attack on China? And vice versa. But long as it can affect others, then they're not too worried about it. So sometimes you have to affect change through actions, right? To prevent a bigger war, you must be able to show that you're willing to go to that level. And that way, it will avoid 90% of the time a bigger war, or World War III or IV, whatever you want to call it. Now, what I was saying to you all is this. Victoria Nuland was the one advocating strikes into Russia. That's why I put it up in there, and I wanted to save it so that I can show you all. So if she's number 3 at the State Department, if she was number 3 at the State Department, then how the hell is the United States pushing her policy? And remember that Victoria Nuland, her husband, Richard Kagan, is a senior fellow at one of those think tanks, and then Victoria Nuland and her sister and her in-laws started the Institute for War think tank.
Everyone deserves the fastest, most reliable internet speeds, regardless.
So they have influence. And remember who her mentor is. Hillary Clinton. Do you understand? And Hillary Clinton had been advocating strikes into Russia when she was on a campaign trail. Advocating confronting Russia. And so Victoria Nuland was only pushing that because that was their thoughts. That was their opinion on what should take place. Now look what America's doing. Look who is advocating. It is no longer confined to those think tanks. It's no longer confined to Hillary Clinton. It's no longer confined to Nuland. And Nuland is no longer in the State Department, right? Then why in the hell is America advocating those policies now? Why is NATO nations advocating those policies? And why are European nations, their leaders, advocating those policies, which were initiated by Hillary Clinton and brought into public limelight by Victoria Nuland? And she's no longer at the State Department. Huh? Google what I'm saying, and then look at the dates of the articles. And you'll see all of a sudden now it's become fashionable to say, well, we only give Ukraine the right to attack military bases that strike them in Russia. Well, what Russia should do, because people say, well, Russia shouldn't attack America proper. Well, what Russia should do, and I'm an advocate for what goes around, comes around, and as thou hast done, so shall it be done unto thee. If you advocate that, why isn't Russia supplying Assad and the Syrian Arab army with the wherewithal and the means to do just that with America, who is illegally in Syria and illegally occupying multiple areas of Syria? Huh? Why won't Russia say, you know what? We have decided that it is time for the Syrian Arab Republic to react, and they should have the capabilities to push out all invaders and occupiers. So we have transferred them, and whatever you tell them, you got them twice or 3 times as much. We have transferred them 30 Panzer systems, the Panzer II systems, about 10 the upgraded Buck systems. We have transferred them on those Bastion coastal systems that'll keep them aircraft carriers at bay off the coast of Syria. All right, we transferred them S-400s and upgraded S-300s, and we have no longer put restrictions on the Syrian Arab Republic. We've also transferred them dozens of Iskander missiles and radars, blah blah, all that stuff. Drones, we have transferred them thousands of drones and blah blah blah. And we have also asked Iran to transfer some of their air capabilities, which are their drones and some of the ballistic missiles, some of their radars, and some of their air defense systems to Syria. So now, guess what? If Israel gets out of pocket, Syria can respond in kind. If America if I was Syria, once they were transferred to me, I would shut down my airspace over all of Syria, all of it, all of it. Any plane flying that is not Syrian or Russian will be immediately down. And if that means escalation, then so be it. You're on our soil. You're in our air. And now I have the wherewithal and the capabilities to rebuff you militarily. Or if not rebuff you, at least inflict upon you such a huge price if you engage in escalation in Syria. Do you understand that the Syrian Arab Republic, that nation, is the size of the U.S. state of Washington? Not Washington, D.C., the U.S. state, Washington, on the West Coast. Do you know that the United States has almost 2 times as many bases in 1/3 of Syria than they have in the whole of the state of Washington. You know that? Do you know that? If that is not imperial occupation, tell me what the hell is. And since America is advocating for Ukrainian independence and sovereignty, Russia should be doing the same with Syria. See, this is what I don't like about these, what some of these leaders do. They allow it to be pushed all on them. Get these people off your neck. Break the stranglehold. Show them that this is no longer a Western prerogative. This is no longer exclusively Western dominated. If you supply weapons over here, I'm going to supply them over here. If you allow them to strike over here, I'm going to allow them to strike over there. And guess what? As soon as a missile flies over in the Belgorod, I would give the go-ahead for Syrian forces to take Al-Tun, which is Syrian territory, which is illegally occupied by U.S. and U.K. forces. The area where they train ISIS, and where that is the dispatch area, where they not only train ISIS, but where they use it, that area right there after training, to then carry them to different areas of battle around the world. So, you want to supply Ukraine with ATACMS? Syria, here's the Iskander. We'll see which one is more powerful. We'll see which one does the most damage. You want to supply the Ukrainians with F-16s? Here you go, Syria. Here's some upgraded MiG-29s and some upgraded Su-30s. Now, guess what? You've opened up a whole can that you can't close again, because guess what happens? Israel loses aerial supremacy, which means that their military can no longer stand in a war against the Syrian Arab Republic, because the Syrians now have upgraded warplanes that are equal to, and in some respects, greater than Western supplied weapons to Israel. So now you've opened up a can. So you want to ignore my interests over here? I'm going to ignore yours over there. If you escalate here, I'm going to escalate over there. Guess what they'll do? If common sense prevails, that'll cause us to go to the negotiating table. If common sense prevails. But listen, if you don't do it like that, common sense will never prevail. And the empire will continue. If you give them an inch, they're going to take a yard. Screen. Boom. If you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, right? You heard me say that, right? Okay, let me remove this off the screen. There's an article on Russia Today, and it's called "Give Them an Inch, They'll Take a Mile." Why red lines on Western weapons are crucial for Russia. Now, all of a sudden, the articles are out stating what I just said. When I was saying this for the last 2 years, I was too brash, too in your face. I needed to dial it down a little bit. That's what I was being told, you know. And in this article, I've never read this article before, but we're going to read a little bit of it, and then we're going to go to another article, because now everybody in the alternative media seems to accept what Vladimir Putin is doing and saying now. All right. And I've been saying this for 2 flipping years. Okay. But listen, it says NATO is trying to shift the Ukraine conflict into Russia, and the lack of a response will be seen as a sign of weakness. Who has been saying that? I'm just asking. Who has been saying that? If you continue to allow the empire to do this, they will continue to escalate. So people say, well, Russia shouldn't do this because then the West may take this as a provocation and they may escalate it. To hell with it. They're escalating anyhow. So if you're going to escalate, we might as well do this thing where I'm not the only one getting hurt. That's the way it's supposed to be. Common sense tells you that. But it seems like it took Vladimir Putin to openly say what he said to make other people come to the realization, hey, that's common sense. But when I've been saying it for 2 years, and I've been told that I'm a little bit too brash, too in your face with it. And soon as Putin and the Russian entourage says it, it's acceptable in the news. Listen to what it goes on to say. And guess who says this? MK Bhadrakuma, the geopolitical analyst from India. He's the one saying it. He's the one that wrote the article in Russia Today. And he says, it says this. I'm gonna skip a couple because I'm gonna skip around because I'm trying to get to another article too to show you what I'm talking about. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me your time, because it is definitely needed. Okay. And for those of you who are my patrons, when the show is over, go back to the beginning of the show and you'll see what's going on. Okay. So listen. On May 31st, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken announced the Biden administration's decision to allow Ukraine to use Western weapons to hit targets in what Washington considered Russian territory. Now, here's the kicker on this one, right? Blinken said that, right? Who is he a protege of? Because remember, a year ago, people were saying, they were asking the question, is Victoria Nuland subservient to him or vice versa? They were asking those questions, all right? And remember, when Victoria Nuland announced her departure from the State Department, and she announced that Russia would be hit with some nasty surprises, and when she was doing the rounds on the television shows, and she was saying these provocative things, people were saying, well, you ignore her. America wouldn't do that about striking Russian territory. What's going on? Now, trace that back to the originator of that, Hillary Clinton. Both of these guys, Blinken and Nuland, are students of Hillary Clinton. You understand? I'm not making any of this stuff up, man. Well, let's go further. Isn't it ironic that the very policies that Hillary Clinton advocated are the very policies that Blinken and Nuland advocate, which the world said, oh, no, they're crazy. Ignore them, which America is now publicly advocating. And guess what? It didn't stop there. Almost all of European nations who are affiliated with NATO are now advocating. What are the odds? Huh? So let's go a little further in this article. It says, this week, Russian President Vladimir Putin reiterated his country's red line in this regard, promising an asymmetric response. So what Rashid said doesn't seem so crazy anymore, does it? Without providing any specific details. Now here it is. I want to flip it for a second, okay, and go to this other article, because there's something to this other article also that goes along with what we're talking about. And maybe we'll come back to this one in just a second. All right. There's an article in Russia Today called Putin Outlines Russian Response to Long-Range Strikes. Now, again, I have been advocating that Russia just openly tell the United States, listen, if you guys do this right here, expect this response. If you escalate, this will be the response. And I'm not an advocate. Like, say, for instance, if you strike my house, I'm not an advocate of striking your house equally. Especially when you have been the neighborhood bully. Now, maybe if we are just arguing and we're neighbors and something like that happens. But when you're the neighborhood bully and you violate all of the lines that I put out there, when I strike back, I'm striking twice as hard. So that you'll understand that for every action you give, there will be a greater reaction. I'm going to follow the laws of science. That says with every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. Well, I will make it clear that for every action, there will be a greater reaction. If you give them, see, Russia could have stopped this from jump. Russia could have told the United States, listen, what Putin is saying right now, he could have said that at the beginning. If you do X, Y, and Z, there will be consequences. You don't have to just say everything that you're going to do, but you let them know there are going to be consequences. When they ignore it and they start sending weapons to Ukraine and trainers to Ukraine, I would, and listen, YouTube, because YouTube will suspend me. And this is a hypothesis. I'm hypothesizing what I may do. I have to say stuff like that. YouTube, this is only for educational purposes, and I do not advocate war, violence, or anything on that level. Okay? So please do not suspend me again. Please do not take the platform down. Let me offer an alternative view of certain things, okay? This does not mean that it is my personally held view, YouTube. Okay. So listen, if you hand strike weapons to the person that I'm fighting, then the person that you're trying to subjugate in another area, I'll hand twice as many and twice as powerful weapons. If you supply warplanes to X, Y, and Z, see, I'm going to supply them to Syria, but here's the kicker. You know how they say, well, Russia will destroy them once they get to Ukraine. To hell with that. Rashid will destroy them on the air bases that they land at before they get to Ukraine. Do you understand? I'm not going to take the chance for you to be able to strike me when I know that you're on your way to kill. First of all, let's stop for a second. Let's use common sense. Everybody that's listening. Say, for instance, that you knew that there were people that just got into a minivan. They have armed themselves to the teeth, and they're on the way to your house. How many of you will wait for them to get to your house before you prepare to take them out? Huh? Or would you, if you had the capability and the wherewithal to prevent them from making it to your house where your children are playing in the yard, your wife is upstairs asleep, how many of you would take the initiative to stop them from endangering your loved ones before they get to your house? Any person with common sense would do that, right? So now we apply that in the sphere of geopolitics. Any leader worth his salt would strike them on the runway or at the military bases that they are at. Now, we know that America is guiding these rockets. We know that NATO troops are guiding these rockets, and they are saying as much. Remember when there were strikes on Russian military bases? There needed to be a reprisal to the people who were back in Iran, and I mean back in Ukraine. And here's the kicker. I'm not talking about in the borders of Ukraine. That's not what I'm talking about. You understand? Because the missiles and the strikes did not stay confined to the borders of Ukraine when they hit me. So why should I draw inside the lines when you're coloring outside of them? If you can color outside the line, so can I. And if you get a butt hurt about it, then stop your provocations. Otherwise, every time you do something, I'm going to meet that with a response. I'm not the aggressor. I'm not 10,000 miles away on your borders doing that. You're on my borders. I can't pick my country up and move it to another location. You have not only, by extension, taken other nations to be a part of the United States under the banner of NATO and the EU, but you have expanded your border all the way up to my border. Don't I have the right to defend my nation? Don't I have the right to defend my livelihood? You have that right, so don't I have that right? And then we'll worry about all the other stuff afterwards. But you're not going to get no free. This is not Tootsie Roll or Tootsie Pops. There are no free licks over here. No way. If you can dish it out, expect to eat it in return. Okay? So listen, let's go into this real quick. And I'll check the chat in a minute. And I am not in any way advocating violence. I'm just telling you the way things are on the geopolitical level, and how things are escalating and what to do to prevent them from getting out of hand. Because I hear people say, well, if they do this, it'll get out of hand. So you mean to tell me I'm supposed to tuck my chin, close my mouth, turn my head, and allow them to continue to pound me to avoid global war? Now, you reside a continent away. You're on my border doing this, and I'm supposed to tuck, tail, and run? Huh? To avoid global war? It seems like you've brought the war globally to my doorstep. And common sense tells me that you are angling now to either attack me or to use proxies, as you said, to weaken me. So you've openly stated that, so guess what I'm going to do? As thou hast done, so shall it be done unto thee. Right? Isn't that the Jesus way? Right? Isn't that the biblical way? Isn't that the Quranic way? Why do we have to stop when it comes to America and the West? That's all I'm asking. So listen, let's read a little bit of this article, this next article. My ice. The article is Putin outlines Russian response to long-range strikes. And the article goes, Moscow is considering arming adversaries of the West in sensitive areas. Have I not been saying that for the longest? If you can arm my enemies, or if you can turn my brother into my enemy and make him want to kill me, and then you arm him to kill me, and we live right next door to each other, then I'm going to have to do something in response to this. I continue to tell you that Chinese dignitaries said that when people continue to light fires on your doorsteps to keep you preoccupied, you have to light a few fires around their doorsteps so that they can't be fully focused on you. Huh? That if you give it, expect to receive it. So listen, it goes and says, Russia is considering asymmetric measures against Kiev sponsors due to Ukraine's use of Western supplied weapons against its territory, Russian President Vladimir Putin has said. The Russian leader's remarks came at a meeting with heads of international news and news agencies on Wednesday on the sideline of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. That's what SPIF is. I'm sorry. We have no illusion in this regard, right? Putin added, while listen to this part right here. I want you to pay attention to this. Putin just said he has no illusions in that regard, right? Okay, so you understand very well who it is that not only is supplying them, but who are directing those weapons. Now, the question should be asked to Vladimir Putin. If you were doing that in Mexico and in Canada to the United States, and you openly said your goal was to bring the United States to its knees, and to weaken the United States, and you openly surrounded the United States through the Caribbean, and Mexico and Canada, and you openly supplied weapons to secessionist movements in Hawaii, California, Texas, all those places. Now I'm going to ask you, what do you think America's response would be? And what do you think America would say that those moves were? America's response would be swift and it would be harsh, right? And America would say that Russia has declared war on it, right? So America would treat that as an act of war. Need I say any more? Huh? I'm saying, why does America and the West continue to get benefits of the doubt from all of the pundits that are talking? Why are you constantly putting the onus on Russia, Iran, Venezuela, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, China, and Iran to avoid World War III? These nations are not on America's borders. These nations are not trying to invade European nations who are part of NATO. But at every turn, we see those very nations in NATO doing that to these nations. So why is the onus on the victim and not on the rapist? I'm asking. If World War III is to be avoided, you want to put it on the back of the person that is feeling trauma? Huh? You want the one that's been raped or the one that's been shot by the aggressor to avoid escalation, and not put that on the back of the assailant, the aggressor? How does that work? So as long as Russia does not strike out, as long as Russia allows America to continue to cut it and give it a death by 1,000 cuts, as long as Iran does not respond to America's aggression, as long as Burkina Faso allows America to stay there, as long as Niger allows America two bases to stay there, as long as Venezuela gives America her oil and does not get involved in international politics, it's okay. And that avoids World War III. But nobody really makes mention of America's involvement in all of the uprisings, the assassination attempts, the color revolutions, right? The bombings, the destabilization programs that they have initiated and carried out in all of these areas. So to avoid World War III, the victim must have all the burden on his shoulder to avoid that. Man, stop that foolishness. Stop that. Stop that foolish line of thinking. That if it does not apply in real life, it does not apply in geopolitics. Now let's go a little further. It says, let's see where I stopped off at. Okay, it says, we have no illusions in this regard, Putin added, repeating his prior comments that Ukrainian troops might be pulling the trigger, but the U.S. and its allies are providing the intelligence and targeting information. Here's another thing. I'm glad I read that part. America continues to fly drones over the Black Sea. I'll down. I don't care. I'm not advocating war. Listen, what do you think America would do if America was locked in a war and America knew that Russia was providing intelligence from drones and AWACS over the Gulf of Mexico? What would be America's response? Huh? Well, that could provoke World War III. No, really? Really? So flying the drones over, providing real-time intelligence to the battlefield of my enemy is not provoking World War III. It's only provoked when I respond. Man, stop this line of thinking. If you want to avoid it, stop being the aggressor. Get off my doorstep, get your hand off my throat, and allow me to breathe. Otherwise, I'm going to fight like hell to preserve my life. Right? And if in this fight between us, that somebody's life is taken, mine or yours, that's the cost. That is just the cost of it. See, I think the problem with everybody is that they've been dumbed down by these political shows and these people who are very intelligent, and they pretend to fight for your empowerment, but in reality it's a money game to them. And I'm not knocking anybody that's making any money, because hey, if you can make money, then do that. But I'm saying, don't do it when it is exploiting the masses of the people. Tell them the truth. Look them in the eyes and tell them the truth. Even if the truth is unpalatable, tell them the truth. Because if you don't, the blood of what happens will be on your hand. Tell them the truth. Say, listen, America continues to do X, Y, and Z. If America was done like this would be her response. Now, once we understand what her response would be, how can you expect another nation not to respond like that? Because America has nuclear weapons? Because America is a powerful military force? I tell you this. Remember this the rest of your life. It is better to die on your feet than live on your knees. You understand me? And if your cause is just and you die in that cause, you'll never die, because truth lives on. Stop being cowards. You understand? Forget about this money. It'll come to you. Look, the money is losing its value anyhow. Your value should be in your ethics and your morality and your duty to God. And what's one of the main duties that you have to God? Is to be just and right to people. That means to tell them the truth. You understand? Don't exploit them because you have the opportunity to. Give them everything that you have at your disposal so that they can make a reasonable and educated judgment on what they shall or shouldn't do. Man, I tell you, oh boy, I tell you what, dealing with a lot of people, I know this, a lot of people are about money, not about lives. And that's what the American government is about. That's what all of these Western governments is about. If they weren't about it, then think about the exploitation and the colonization and the killing and the enslavement of the masses of people around the globe for the benefit of the few. People, listen, you can get money. And if you lose it, if you try hard enough again, you can get it again. But if a life is extinguished, I don't care how many more lives you produce, you can never reproduce the one that was extinguished. You understand? And the Western world puts more emphasis on material things than on livelihood, than on spirituality. And that's why it's going to hell in a handbasket right now. And we're watching it in real time. So let's go a little further in this article. And I'll go to the chat in a second, okay? It says, Russia will respond by boosting air defenses and destroying these missiles, Putin said. Secondly, if someone deems it possible to supply such weapons to the war zone to strike our territory, why shouldn't we supply similar weapons to those regions of the world where they will be used against sensitive sites of these countries? The Russian president added, we can respond asymmetrically. We will give it a thought. Stop right there. Haven't I been saying that? We just played a video of it. I've been advocating it for the longest. If they would have employed that reasoning right there at the beginning, maybe there would not be an escalation right now where we're on the brink of a third world war. And this time it won't be fought with arrows and bows and arrows and rocks and stones or bullets. It'll be fought. This war is going to be fought with thermonuclear. You can come back from rocks and sticks and arrows. You can come back as nations. You can come back from bullets. But can you come back from a thermonuclear exchange? See, this is what you should be thinking about. This is why they banned me. This is why they suppress my numbers in my channel. This is why they take me out the algorithm. Because when you deal with me, I'm a straight shooter. I'm going to tell you what's on my mind. I'm going to tell you how it is, my views on it, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're grown people. We are grown-ups. I shouldn't have to talk to you like you're a child and spice up the truth for you. I shouldn't have to do that. The truth is, it stands alone. And Vladimir Putin is coming to the conclusion that, hey, maybe we should do X, Y, and Z. The same thing that I have been harping on for 2 years. Because guess what? I was listening to Colonel, Daniel Davis, I believe that's what it is. Deep Dive, that's what it was. Earlier today when I was leaving, you know how sometimes your phone recommends stuff. And so I was listening to him. And he was saying, and Daniel Davis, he making a lot of good points, okay? And he was saying something about, well, if Russia, if we keep escalation going, Russia may be cornered and be forced to do something. And if Russia sends these equivalent weapons around the world to people who hate us, then there's no doubt in my mind that we will be forced to respond. And he says that, that in so many words, it says that that would be an unacceptable escalation. So it's and not, I'm not talking to him at this moment. I'm just using his word. Now I'm talking to those who think similar to that, or some or who think that America is that exceptional nation. So as long as you escalate, it's okay. As long as you strike people or allow your patsies to strike people with devastating weapons, that's okay. But if they choose to defend themselves to get you off of their neck and they strike back, that's unacceptable escalation. What the hell? See, this is what I'm saying. I believe that Americans and Westerners have had it, had their way so long that they think the whole world is Burger King. You know, have it your way. They think it's like that. And so a lot of people that talk don't even realize that they're talking through a colonialistic, imperialistic mindset. I'm not talking about, listen to me, don't say I'm talking about Colonel Davis. I'm not. I'm talking about people in general. I was using a quote from him to express something to you all. America believes that she is the exception to the rule. I continue to tell you that. The Western world believes that they're the exception to the rule. And now America is saying that the fight in Ukraine is an existential one. Now, Ukraine lies 10,000 miles or something like that away from the United States shores. It's right on Russia's border, and some of Ukraine used to be part of Russia, and all of Ukraine used to be part of the nation called the Soviet Union, which was in part some of Russia's putting together surrounding nations as a cohesive, unified unit. Okay, so Ukraine shares Slavic blood with Russia. It shares a history with Russia. It shares a border with Russia. It once shared a union with Russia, right? It shares a faith with Russia because a lot of Russians and a lot of the Ukrainians are Christians, right? And you are planting your flag, your military, your missiles in Ukraine, and it's not an existential threat to Russia. But if the Ukrainians lose the war, it's an existential threat to NATO and the United States. How? I mean, these people must be drunk when they do their writings. How does that even make sense? Ask Blinken, how does that make sense? Ask what is his name? A lunatic Joe, if it makes sense. Because he's a lunatic. All right. Ask Clinton and all the rest of it. Does it make sense? And how is it always an outrage if America struck, but it's not an outrage if America strikes others? When you look at it like that, then it shows you beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is a atmosphere of American exceptionalism that permeates from the top, but it spreads across the masses of the people in the West. It spreads across, and they don't even realize it when they're talking. That's an escalation if you strike American bases. Now, listen to this. It's an escalation if you strike America's illegal bases in Syria, in the area that it is illegally occupying, violating the very territorial integrity that America continues to talk about, all right, and the sovereignty and independence of that Syrian Arab Republic. It's an escalation if you strike some illegal poachers, illegal vagabonds that are staying illegally and stealing wheat, rice, corn, oil, and gas from Syria. If you strike them and force them out, that's an escalation. How does that work? But it's not an escalation that America illegally came into Syria against the wishes of the people, against the wishes of the president of Syria, against the Syrian Arab Republic's army's wishes, and against international law. That's not an escalation. We're going to just forget that. We're going to throw that out the window. That's not an escalation. It only becomes an escalation if you try to get the illegal occupants of a third of Syria out of Syria. They don't have passports. They don't have birth certificates say that they are from Syria. These are U.S. forces that have been deployed there. That is, for them to be deployed there, that's not an escalation. For Syria to want its land back, its oil back, its gas back, its people in that area back, its corn, its wheat, all of that back, that is an escalation. You see the mindset set of the Western world? It's clouded with arrogance and imperialism, racism and hubris, fascism. It's clouded with all that. And we can point out the flaws of everybody else. We can point out their violations of international law, territorial integrity, the sovereignty of other nations. But when it comes to the U.S., nobody is mentioning America is occupying one of the Yemeni islands illegally. The United States, the UK, and Israel are occupying one of the Yemeni islands illegally. Nobody is talking about how the British and the U.S. ignored a UN mandate for them to remove their military bases off those Pacific islands, or those islands in the Indian Ocean that they have military bases on it, and then repatriate the people that they kicked off the island back there. Nobody's talking about that. That's not a violation of sovereignty and territorial integrity. Nobody's talking about how America is still refusing to leave Niger. Huh? That's not a violation of sovereignty and territorial integrity. Right? America refuses to leave Iraq. She's refusing to leave Jordan, but the Jordan, that Hashemite guy there, he's a puppet there. And He'll go with whatever the flow is. Nobody's talking about America's occupying 1/3 of Syria. Look on your map. Get your phone, look on your map, and Google the state of Washington, the U.S. state of Washington. And then look at how big that state is. And remember that the United States is occupying 1/3 of Syria, which is equal to the size of the state of Washington. That's not a violation of international law. That's not violating the territorial integrity of that nation or the sovereignty of that nation. It's only when America and France and the UK points the finger at Russia and Iran. See, this arrogance there. This is why there's a desire, and that's why the world is moving towards something else. Because this system is so unequal, so unbalanced, so arrogant, and so unjust. And injustice cannot prevail in a world of justice. You understand? It cannot. So there's a need now, there's a longing for the people, not just in America, but around the globe, for something new. Because everywhere America and the UK goes, they leave death and destruction, famine and exploitation. Everywhere they go, without exception. Look at Hawaii. Most people think that Hawaii is just a acceptable part of the United States. Then you look in the history, Hawaii didn't become a state just because they wanted to become a state. They became a state because the United States went in and occupied Hawaii and forced the Queen of Hawaii to sign statements and then become a part of the United States. That's how Hawaii became a part of the United States. Look at where she goes. What is that? What are those four horsemen of the apocalypse? When that fourth horse comes, what happens? War, death, and pestilence follows. Look around the globe and tell me an area of the globe that the United States and the UK have been at that has not followed them. Show me. Just look around the globe and tell me if I'm lying to you all. They are that horse that death, pestilence, and destruction follows. That's them. And they are mad that the world is reaching for something that's outside of their grasp because they can't control it. That's why they're willing to take the world to war. Because they look at it from a mind state of, how dare you challenge my rule? If you don't think that's their mind state, let's just review something for a second, okay? Let us go to Iraq for a second. Google it if you think I'm lying. Iraq has had parliamentary votes for the last few years, and each parliamentary vote has demanded the United States, the UK, and coalition forces extricate themselves from that sovereign nation, right? Not only has that happened, but each prime minister and each president of Iraq have also voted for that. Guess what? Has the United States, the UK, and coalition forces extricated themselves from Iraq? Have they? Nah, they haven't. Huh? Look around. How did they get into Arabia? The UK, mostly, and then with the help of France and the US, took some desert bandits called the House of Saud, who was out in the desert robbing and raping people. The UK gave them their dogma. So for those of you who are always talking about Islamic terrorism, you should be talking about Chrislamic terrorism, because Wahhabism came from Britain, not from the Middle East. And if you go into the historical writings, the history, you will see there that Britain said that they thought that it was a useful tool. So they empowered the Wahhabis. They gave that to the House of Saud and told them, listen, here's the deal. We found oil there. We'll put you in power. We'll do X, Y, and Z. But this will have to happen, blah, blah, blah. The United States, France, and the UK, specifically the US and the UK. And that's how you have your House of Saud. And that's how you have your Wahhabism, through the British Crown. Not through Mecca or Medina, through the British Crown. And to this day, they're still using that Wahhabism to demonize Islam. But it's British. Why don't anybody talk about these things? Because history best rewards those who research it, right? So, and here's another thing. As we go back to this article, before we go back to this article, let me address this. Because I heard a lot of this yesterday and today. All right. By a lot of respectable pundits. And I don't think, listen to me good, I don't think they meant anything about it. I think it was just average discourse. Because that's what it's said. So they were talking about Islamic extremism and Islamic terrorism, right? And it says that that the United States should be prepared for the spread of Islamic terrorism, right? All right. Tell me what is more terroristic than somebody to leave their home 5, 10 miles, 10,000 miles away, come to your land, force you into subjection or subjugation, force you to accept what they think, what they say is moral morality, occupy you, ignores the will of the people and the government, will not accept your sovereignty while speaking sovereignty, all right, and then using your land for whatever reason they thought, while in the process bombing and killing the inhabitants there. What's more terroristic than that? Did Al Qaeda do that? No. ISIS? No. Who did it? The UK and the US and France. They did that. And they're doing it now. And let us not forget, when we talk about Islamic terrorism, who is the one who fashioned and tutored Osama bin Laden? Was it not Zbigniew Brzezinski? Huh? And was he not a U.S. Politician who became the national security advisor for Jimmy Carter and the mentor for Barack Obama? So if he mentored and tutored and armed and trained Osama bin Laden and the Taliban, how the hell is that Islamic terrorism when it gets out of hand? If Brzezinski claims to be a Christian, and I'm just showing you, I'm not down in your religion. I'm just saying, I'm showing you the intricacies of this technology that they put on you. If Brzezinski claimed to be a Christian, if Jimmy Carter claimed to be a Christian, because remember, this was done under Jimmy Carter, then isn't that Christian terrorism? Huh? The Taliban and Osama bin Laden were just puppets. I'm asking, because nobody breaks this stuff down and look at it. They just accept it hook, line, and sinker. Right? Nowhere, everywhere we look, if you point to Qatar, who put them in power? The United Arab Emirates, who put them in power? And then go Google it, and then look up the dates that those countries were formed. Again, back to Arabia. Even listen, these people are so arrogant and so tricky in what they do. When they put the House of Saud in power in Arabia, the House of Saud stamped their name on an entire country and people. You hear people tell, I'm Saudi. No, you're Arabian. There was never a book called Lawrence of Saudi Arabia. It was Lawrence of Arabia, right? Man, I'm telling you. See, I'm pointing out the inconsistencies of the policies of the West. Even while I'm telling you about the hypocrisy. What you see right now is a dying system. That's what's going on. And when you look at America and Great Britain, or the UK especially, they have ruled for the last few hundred years, separately and together. And when you have ruled globally, because remember the Brits used to make a joke that the sun never set on the British Empire, right? And America made that same joke, but what America didn't realize is that Britain had a lot of control over the U.S. empire. Again, I point to the fact that it is not the London Gold Exchange that follows the U.S. Gold Exchange. It's vice versa. It's not the London Stock Exchange that follows the New York Stock Exchange. It's vice versa. And he who controls the gold, who controls the flow of money, guess what? Controls the politics and the policies, right? Is that not right? I'm asking. Isn't that what everybody used to say? Don't it apply then? Huh? I'm asking. So they have ruled universally, without exception, for the last couple hundred years. And what they see now is re-emerging powers like China and Russia, and new emerging powers. Some who just threw them off, like South Africa, Brazil, Iran. They're seeing these people, and it's not gelling with them that we can be equal cohabitants. No, I got to dominate. I got to dominate because I'm the exceptional. I'm from the West. And they start buying this crap that they put in them history books about that they were better than everybody and everybody else was savages. And that's not how it was. But as they see their power and their influence waning and on the decline, desperation sets in. And when desperation sets in, people don't think rationally, right? They don't think rationally. They, like, say for instance, the person that's desperately trying to pay their rent or their mortgage, or lose the position, lose their house and their so-called standing in the eyes of people. They become desperate. You see it all the time on these murder shows where the people kill their mother or kill their father or kill their brother or kill their children or vice versa because they felt that the moment was too great for them and they would lose their standing, their position, their wealth. So they did the only thing that was sound in their mind, which if they would have stepped back, they would have saw that it was unsound and it was not fashionable, was to try to get money by any means necessary. And the best thing that they could come up with is, hey, that person has a life insurance policy on them. Let me kill them. The person may have never transgressed against them. But when you're not thinking rationally, your irrational thoughts become sane thoughts to an insane person. That's what you see with America. That's what you see with Britain. That's what you see with the West. And that's why you see them so enraged by China. If this had been France like that, rising like China, there would be little to no problem. If this was Hungary rising like China, there would be little to no problem. If this was any Scandinavian country rising like China, there would be no problem. But because China is a non-white, non-Western nation, this is unacceptable. The United States even said as much. I forgot which article it was. Oh my God. Oh my God. I got it saved somewhere. The United States let the cat out the bag and they said as much as that this is unacceptable for a non-Western nation to ascend to become the number one economic power and maybe even number one military power. Because for those of you who may not know, China's shipbuilding capability. This is what I'm saying. Let's go back to something first before I explain that. Remember when I told you when you're desperate, the irrational thoughts become rational and become sane in the mind of an insane person? Think about this. China is America's number one trade partner. 90, like I tell you all, 93 to 95% of all goods on all store shelves come from China or a subsidiary of the Chinese nation, right? China is America's largest investor. China is America's largest bond buyer, right? There was a study by the U.S. military that said right now the Chinese shipbuilding capability is more than 200 times the capacity of the U.S. in the West. More than 200, right? Now look at this. Why would you stoke tensions on China's shores or China's waters or close to Chinese waters when if you lose a ship, it may take you it already takes you 5-6 years to build one. So now you multiply that by 3 times. If China loses one, they have a shipbuilding capacity where they can put one right back out. Financially, you cannot afford a war. You're already bankrupt, and they give you this number. The United States debt has reached 110% of GDP. But if we do X, Y, and Z, we can do this and this and this. People listen to me good. They sell you the goods. And when you open up the box, there are no goods in the box. How in the hell can America escape this debt when her tax revenues are lower? She's not producing anything. She's not selling much, right? So how can our economy continue to grow when it's become a service economy? China's economy is, well, China has this ghost real estate. China has this such and such. China has all of this debt, and it may collapse the country. Most of Chinese debt is held by Chinese. Let me say that again. Most of Chinese debt is held by Chinese. And guess what happens? When there's an economic crisis, this is how China is able to rein in some of that stuff when there are economic crises. And also the Chinese people themselves hold a lot of gold personally. You understand? So America and the Chinese are in two different boats. China is in a one of those cruise liners, and America is in a tugboat filled with holes. Because all she is doing is spending. They were saying that America spends $6 million a second. $6 million. How is that even sustainable? Huh? How? I just want any of you to make me understand how is spending $6 million a second or $6 million a minute sustainable when your tax revenues are drying up, when you are doing nothing but posting trade deficits, and you're doing that deficit spending where you're borrowing from the very people you're trying to surround with your military, and then you're projecting debt on future generations that have no way of paying it off. And you want to get into a war, a shooting war, with a nation that has trillions in reserve, a nation that is now on par, if not ahead of you in technology, that has now become not only the largest land army, but the largest navy in the world. And at the end of the year, I think that it could be the end of this year or the first part of next year, they will be projected to have the largest air force in the world. How is that sound judgment? Especially when the people at home are hurting. You can find money for Ukraine, but veterans are on the street begging for a handout. Not because they want to, it's because your policies have forced them into it. You don't look out for them. You claim to be patriotic until they leave your military. And they can't get health care right, medical aid. Some of them wind up in jail, abused and misused. You are funding the entirety of the Ukrainian budget. That means pensions and those retirements, the salaries of all of the, I guess what they call oblasts or states, the federal government, and the military. It's okay, and you can find money for that. You can borrow for that. But back home, when there's a crisis growing of unemployment, hunger, homelessness, the veterans, the ones who would go and give their lives for your policy, you ignore them and turn your back on them. You don't think that's a recipe for a war at home? And the haves continue to get, while the have-nots continue to languish in poverty, or the middle class falls into poverty. You don't think that's a recipe for a war at home? I'm asking. You put all these billions and billions and tens of billions into weapon suits that don't even work, and that are delayed for years upon years upon years. And then when they finally come into they're obsolete, and you've paid billions of dollars for them when they have cost overruns unheard of. You can find money for that. Find money for Ukraine. You find money for your military escapades and your war games, because most people don't look at the war games that they have all on the Korean Peninsula, with Japan, with the European nations, with this nation, with that. That costs tens of millions and even billions of dollars to do that. Each time that happens. Again, we go back to what is it, the Fannie Mae? I believe it's Fannie Mae, the ones over the house. Fannie Mae. Listen to me good. Google this. They did a study. They said that it would take $20 billion to eradicate homelessness in America. 20 billion. That's a fraction of what America has supplied to Ukraine. 20 billion. You give Israel 7 to 10 billion every year. And your people at home are hurting. You don't hear their cries. You don't hear their pleas. All you can think about is hegemonic ways. You take their money out of their checks. You go and spend it on war. You alienate other people. Then it's always everybody else. That's a spoiled child. It's never your fault. It's everybody else's fault. Russia is being belligerent. Iran is being belligerent. Then somebody say, well, did Venezuela pick the country up and move to the border with Mexico and the United States? No. Does Venezuela have any bases there? No. Does America have bases in Venezuela? Yes. Is America holding war games in Venezuela? Yes. What about Iran? Has Iran picked up its nation and moved it into the Western Hemisphere? No. Does Iran have any military bases next to the United States? No. Does the United States have bases? Oh, hell yeah, they've surrounded Iran. What about Syria? That goes on. What about China is very belligerent and we won't allow this, the contesting of our power in the Middle East, in South China Sea. Does China have military bases next to the United States? No. Is China holding war games in the Gulf of Mexico? No. Which by international law they can do that. Is China holding war games off the coast of New York? No. Is America holding war games close to China? Yes. Does America have bases all around China? Yes. Let's look at Russia. You don't even have to ask that question when you look to Ukraine. But it's always them. They are the belligerent ones and never America and NATO. How is that? In a sane, rational mind, how can you even come to that? How can you even quantify what America is spitting out? It's bizarro world with these lunatics. And they are deconstructing the American Republic with their arrogance, with their hate, because they hate Russia. They hate Russia. What Hillary Clinton said, it's unfair. Russia should be balkanized. It's unfair that Russia is that size and has all of those resources. That's what Hillary Clinton said. So it's Russia's fault. Russia started the war in Ukraine, even though the United States moved NATO up into Ukraine. Even though up until the war started, Vladimir Putin was trying to negotiate with the West. It's Russia's fault. It's unprovoked. For them to even say that to you, guess what? Guess how much respect they have for your common sense and your intellect. Boop. Boop. They know that they have made the masses of the people lazy. And people want everything handed to them. They don't want to work for it. They don't want to study for it. They want you to give it to them. So when America puts out these statements, they're putting it out to those people that they know that are too lazy to try to find the truth. And that's how they continue to exploit their power over the masses. Let me go to the chat. I said I was going to go to the chat, and I see the chat. So let me go to the chat real quick, everybody. Hold on one second. Let's see. Ooh, come on. My guy. What's up, fam? Ascended Awakening. Incognito. Ping 1. Flying Crocodile. Let's see. Salute to all. Bugger is I have to go to the airport in 5 minutes. Hope you have a safe flight too. Holly is in the building. My girl Holly. Salute. You know, V, I said I would call you V. Right? Hey V, I'm glad you're up there and I see that you're a channel member. This is what's going on before I go back to this subject. We're trying to work out something. I was supposed to stream today for Patreon, and then tomorrow for channel members. And this is what's happening. We're trying to work through some things. I've been trying all day to stream. You guys give me 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Hello? Okay, baby. I'm finishing up my stream now. I'll be there. All right, bye-bye. That's my daughter. Hey, Mom, I know you listen. She said, tell her Nana she loves you, but they don't never miss a chance to try to one up me with my mom. And my mom, she don't want you to say nothing to him. So, Mom, I'm just keeping it real with you. Anyway, it is what it is. Pedro is in the building. Joel is in the building. Let's see, man. This thing is Joanne. It's not Christian cheering, but it was not done in. Oh, Joanne, let me put your thing. I'm addressed it. I tried to address that in my statement. Okay. So Joanne, you said it's not Christian terrorism because it was not done in the name of or for the glory of Jesus Christ. All wars of the devil. Yeah, well, you made in your first part of your statement, you made my point. What I was saying to you, what I was showing you this, the hypocrisy. When somebody yell Allah you Akbar, first thing they say is Islamic terrorism. Nobody takes the time to look at the whole thing. Like say for instance that thing that took place at the concert in Moscow. Russia said that I think what they said, it was ISIS or Al Qaeda or something like that were working with Ukrainian intelligence, but the masterminds behind it was the West, was NATO. Okay, so how is that? And then at the same time, it says Islamic terrorism. How is that? If you see that the whole of NATO claims to be, and notice I said, and I do that with air quotes, claim to be Christian. How in the hell can that be Islamic terrorism? If they planned it, they armed, they trained, and then they guided them, and all the people, they may have had names Akbar or Muhammad or Ali, but it was Jerry and John and Kerry that planned, trained, and financed it. How in the hell can that be Islamic terrorism? That's all I was asking, and I was trying to show the hypocrisy of that. Right. So if somebody has a name of Akbar and they commit a crime, it's Islamic terrorism. If Mike goes into the church with an assault rifle and shoot everybody, right, it's just terrorism. They don't associate that with Christianity, but they associate all negative stuff with Islam. That's what I'm saying. Right. And give you another example before I go on to something else, okay? And this is something to make you think. And we can have different agreements. I'm not condemning my father. Me and my father, we had different thoughts on different things, and I respect his thoughts, and I respect him as a man and as a father, and I never showed no disrespect to my pops ever. So listen, excuse me. So before I go, I'm gonna stay on this for 1 second. So when we say Mike goes up in there and they don't associate it with Christianity, they just say he was a lone shooter or he was angry about something, or when somebody is carjacked by Maurice, they don't say that was Christian terror. But if his name was Akbar and he carjacked the car, that was Christian. That was Islamic terrorism, Islamic extremism. Those are the points I was making. The West have put up something to automatically demonize anything related to that. And here's the kicker. Let me share something with you all. And I've shared it before. Here's the kicker, especially with these so I guess I don't know so-called Christian evangelicals, right? They support Israel, right? Regardless of what. But do you know they don't even believe in Jesus? Huh? I want to put this out there. I'm not going on a religious tangent, but I'm just saying. And they demonize Muslims, and Muslims believe Jesus is the Messiah. Have you ever thought about that? I just want people to know that. They don't tell you that in the news, though. Right? They don't tell you that stuff. But they say that these are crazed lunatics Muslims, or Muslims, as they say, the West Muslims, right? All they care about is Muhammad, right? They don't tell you that they respect all of the people of God, and they do believe in Jesus, and they love Jesus, right? But when you look at that other Abrahamic faith, they don't even recognize Jesus as being a real person. Go Google that. All right. So now, America owes incognito. America owes monopoly money. RCM, GL 100. Jones says again, true. The destruction of the republic is what they're doing. That's right. I'm trying to do this. I'm talking to you. Listen. As I said to you, people are not going to agree on everything. We're adults. We're enlightened. We're intelligent. We should be able to be disagreeable while agreeing to be disagreeable, without us talking down about this and that. Right? We should be able to do that. Joanne said, "Okay, let's see. Okay, I got it now. I see what you're saying. See, that's what I'm saying. That's all I was saying, Joanne. I wasn't down in Christianity. No, I'm not saying nothing about that. I was just giving facts, and this is what I do. I try to tell people, listen, when you listen to me, and then if you don't get what I'm saying, go back and listen again, and then it'll come to you. It'll come to you. Listen, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, anywhere on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, elevation, and edification. This is the Real Deal Diaries. I'm going to still try to do a short stream tonight. If I can't, if I don't get on Patreon, you know I'm having problems trying to get back on there. So if I don't, there will be definitely a recorded or a live stream for patrons tomorrow, and then I'll try to stream Saturday for the channel members on YouTube for channel members. But I'm gonna be streaming live for everybody also. So please, everybody, forgive me. I'm trying my best. You see how they continue to come at me. I'm only one man, and I'm dumb as bricks when it comes to technology. My son is helping me out a lot, and I owe him a lot for doing that because he didn't have to do that. And so we're going to get it worked out, because you can't cut asunder or bring down what God has ordained. And God has ordained the truth, and we're going to speak the truth regardless to whom or what. If you get offended by the truth, then maybe the truth wasn't meant for you. On that note, know that I love you with all of my heart if you love truth. But the love that I have for you will pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you for joining me. We're out of here. Peace.